الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وبعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Once again, I don't know if you can hear me. I hope the sisters can hear me. Inshallah, welcome to the Masjid Tawfiq conference, the summer conference. And today, inshallah, is going to be our final day. Yesterday was a good day as well. Alhamdulillah, we had Ustadh Abu Taymiyyah and Ustadh Kid Mahmoud and also Ustadh Muhammad Hudhaifa. And today, inshallah, again, we've got Ustadh Abu Taymiyyah, and he's going to be talking about the Fiqh Al-Muamalaat, inshallah. So if you like, in future, you think of buying and selling, or perhaps you want to start a business, or perhaps you're already doing a business, or you've ever bought something, or you have ever sold something, you need to be here for this bi'idhin rahman. We also request, we've been told that there is people that give, the people that give out tickets, ticket inspectors, they're outside. So in case you parked wrong or you parked in the wrong place, please double check that. And also the people that are in here, inshallah, if you can try, the young people, make some notes. Bi'idhin rahman is really important. The book that we're going to be going through, Bi'idhin rahman. So try your best to make notes. And if you can, call one of your friends to come and join, Bi'idhin rahman. If you call 10, that's a bonus. Tell your friends, your family to be part of this conference, inshallah. We've got until Salat al-Maghrib. So after this lecture, we've got another lecture at 5:30, inshallah. 5:30 we have another lecture, inshallah, with Ustadh Sheikh Muhammad Ali Maulid from Manchester. So inshallah, come for that one as well. And after Maghrib, we've got another lecture. Barakallahu fikum wa jazakumullah khair. Inshallah, we're going to start now. Ustadh Abu Taymiyyah is going to be teaching us and going through the book of transactions and Bi'idhin rahman, buying and selling. So Ustadh Abu Taymiyyah is a graduate of the University of Medina and a caller to Islam, is very known for that all over the UK. Inshallah, without any further ado, I'd like to invite the Sheikh, inshallah, to start. فليتفضل.
الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين، بعثه الله شاهدا ومبشرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا. My beloved brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We want to get straight into it, inshallah ta'ala. Continue off from where we started yesterday. Alhamdulillah, we took quite a bit. Let me ask some of you brothers and sisters who attended yesterday to give me some benefits from yesterday's class. What did you learn yesterday? Halal dealings. Give me an example. Everything was either about haram or halal dealings. Here.
One for for example, when you buy a product, first, when you want to sell something, you need to have knowledge of selling.
You need to have knowledge of that which you are engaging in. Just like salah, before you pray, you need to have knowledge of what you're actually doing, right? Otherwise you might end up praying incorrectly, right? Our whole sole purpose of why we have been brought into existence, into this world, is to worship Allah. Allah only created us for that. And you cannot fulfill that accordingly except by knowledge, by study. I will mention that there is some of knowledge that everybody must know, which is like Salah, Tahara, fasting, the month of Ramadan. Everybody here fasts in the month of Ramadan. And there is some knowledge, brothers and sisters, that is not mandatory upon you up until you directly engage in it. Like Hajj. Am I going to tell you all to start learning about Hajj now, when you're maybe the age of 20, 21? Most likely you don't have 6,000-7,000 pounds in the bank. La. However, when the time arrives, and it has now become mandatory, compulsory upon you, it is upon you to know before you do that act. Likewise, when it comes to La ilaha illallah, when a revert, right, before he becomes a Muslim, we explain to him what La ilaha illallah means, right? What is the first condition of La ilaha illallah? First condition.
To be a Muslim.
The first condition of La ilaha illallah, al-ilmu wal-yaqeen wal-qabulu wal-inqiyadu fadri ma aqulu wal-sidq wal-ikhlas wal-mahabba waffaqaka Allah lima habba. He has to have knowledge of the kalima. Allah says in the Quran, فَعْلَمْ إيش أنه لا إله إلا الله. فَعْلَمْ أنه لا إله إلا الله. Have knowledge, have ilm, that He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, has the right to be worshipped in truth. Right? Does that make sense? You have to have knowledge of the kalima. If I'm saying La ilaha illallah, and then tomorrow I start committing that which is going to nullify my La ilaha illallah, what's the benefit? Like some people, they go to the grave. Some people, they go to the grave and they invoke a righteous man. When I was in Medina, every now and again when we go past the Prophet ﷺ's grave, there are people standing there like that. And then when you say to him, "Akhi, brother, don't do this. This is something that will take you out of the fold of Islam. This is shirk billah." When you pray to Allah, right? What happens if you pray to other than Allah? Shirk billah. Does that make sense? Likewise now, dua. Dua is what? It's an ibadah, it's an act of worship. If you agree now that I can't pray to other than Allah because it's an ibadah, right? It's an act of worship. Would you agree also that you can't make dua to other than Allah? Tfaddal ya akhwa. No, over there. Or in the other room, tfaddal. I don't bite. You can come stay here. Tfaddal, tfaddal, tfaddal. Does that make sense, my brothers and my sisters? You must have knowledge of what you embark upon, of what you go forth in doing. Right? Al-ilm. In whatever we go forth in doing. So buying and selling falls under which category? Like the salat or like the hajj? When we talk about that which one must learn about. It's like the hajj, right? Up until you start having business deals. Up until you start having a lot of these online transactions. Many youngsters are directly involved in. Does that make sense? You must know that which you are dealing with. طيب. We reached line number 11. Yesterday we took 10 lines of poetry. He says here, وَقَصْدُنَا بِجَائِزِ التَّصَرُّفِ حُرٌّ رَشِيدٌ صِفْهُ بِالْمُكَلَّفِ. We touched on this yesterday. You know how we talked about the aqid. Who's the aqid? The buyer and the seller. The bari' wal mushtari. The first pillar from the pillars of buying and selling is what, brothers and sisters? The aqid, who is the buyer and the seller. Right? And the buyer and the seller, my brothers and my sisters, cannot be any type of individual. What did we mention yesterday? Who cannot be someone who's considered an aqid? Someone who hasn't reached the age of discretion or the age of puberty. He is not allowed to buy and sell. Is it like that, unrestrictedly ala itlaqiha? Or did we make an exemption? What was the exemption? Something very small. Right? Something very small that he's buying, something extremely cheap. Sometimes you give your little brother some change to go and buy an ice cream, 50 pence, £1. He can't do that? لا بأس, ما في إشكال. Right? So anyways, there were 3 conditions that the aqid needs to meet before he is allowed to administer his own wealth. Right? 3 conditions. What was the first condition? He has to be a free man. Al-hur. He has to be what? A free man. A slave cannot administer that which is in his possession. The wealth that he possesses is owned by who? His master. طيب. Second condition is what?
To own it.
Now with regards to the aqid, he must meet certain conditions before he is allowed to administer his own wealth.
The age of reason.
He has to reach what? The age of discretion. Or the age of puberty. What were some of the alamat, the signs of puberty that we mentioned? Facial hair? No, bodily hair. Right? Whether it is on the armpits or whether it is in a private area, that's the first alama. What's the second one?
Voice changing.
Voice changing. So if the 30-year-old sounds like a woman, huh? Wet dream. وَإِذَا بَلَغَ الْأَطْفَالُ مِنْكُمُ الْحُلُمُ. So if he has a wet dream, that's another sign in an inkuba lukhay, that he has now what? Reached the age of puberty. My Somali is good, huh? Now, he has what? Had a wet dream. Does that make sense? The third condition, the third alama is he has reached the age of 15. It could be any of these three. You don't have to wait for all of them to appear before one is considered baligh, having reached the age of puberty. Does that make sense? The third is what? Somebody who is mature and sensible. Someone who's competent. Some individuals, my brothers and my sisters, they are extremely foolish in how they administer wealth. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَبَتَلُوا الْيَتَامَى حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغُوا النِّكَاحِ. You know the orphans that you're looking after? Are you just allowed to give them all of the money that has been left behind for them? The father of this orphan passed away. He left behind 500,000 pounds for this young child. After the distribution of inheritance, this young child, that is maybe 11 years of age, he has 500,000 pounds in the kitty. It's handed over to him. What do you think is going to happen? You think he's going to be sensible with our wealth? He's not going to be sensible. This is why the guardian now, the one who's in charge, he has to what? Hold on to his wealth up until he has reached maturity and he has become sensible. Does that make sense? Someone who's competent, who's not just going to be foolish with this wealth that he has what? Taken control of. That's why Allah says, وَابْتَلُوا الْيَتَامَى حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغُوا النِّكَاحِ. Test them. See as to whether they are competent or not. See if they're going to be sensible. Give them a little bit. See what they do with it. Does that make sense? طيب. And then he mentions the following. وَامْنَعْ تَصَرُّفًا مَتَى مَا حُكِمًا بِحَجْرِ مُفْلِسٍ بِسُؤْلِ الْغُرَمَا. Let's speak about something called an interdiction. Does anyone have an idea of what interdiction means in English language? You study civil engineering, right? Has anyone here studied law or finances or accounting?
What is it in Arabic?
Just tell me what it means in English, interdiction. Everyone here is English, right? Well, come on to the Arabic.
My Arabic is better than my English.
طيب ما معنى الغريم؟ أو خلي الغريم. What does المحجور عليه mean?
That means someone owes you money because of something that he did.
المحجور عليه. Not المديون, المحجور عليه.
It's the opposite.
طيب anyone else؟ تفضل يا شيخ. أنت من السودان.
نعم.
شنو المعنى؟
المحجور عليه بمعنى زول يعني محجور في حتة لا فيها مأكل ولا مشرب يعني زي الزول المحبوس في حتة.
He's basically saying a zol that is what? محبوس. في شيء معين. I'm going to explain to you guys inshallah ta'ala. An interdiction, brother and sister, is a legal process where a court is asked to determine, right, whether a person is unable, right, to consistently make decisions regarding his own property. Does that make sense? يُحْجَرُ عَلَيْهِ. The court judges that this individual is not considered sensible. Here we just spoke about 3 types of individuals, brothers and sisters, that cannot have business dealings. Free man, the one who has reached the age of puberty, and also the one who's not competent, the one who's not sensible. Right? Here the Shaykh, he makes mention of وَمْنَعْ تَصَرُّفًا مَتَى مَا حُكِمًا. Stop an individual from administering his own wealth. مَتَى مَا حُكِمًا. Right? Once a ruling is passed by the judge. بِحَجْرِ مُفْلِسٍ بِسُؤْلِ الْغُرَمَةِ. Brothers and sisters, everyone write this down. One is prevented from administrating his own wealth due to 2 reasons. Number 1, due to what is in his own best interest. And that is to protect him. Does that make sense? Like the 3 that we mentioned. The 3 that we mentioned, when we now stop them from administrating their own wealth, we stop them from having business deals. Right? This is in the best interest of who? He himself is going to benefit from that, right? This young child, when I say to him, listen, I'm not going to hand over £500,000 of inheritance to you up until you become what? Until you become baligh, someone who has reached the age of puberty. The Sharia now is looking to protect who? Who's the Sharia protecting? This young child. Because if you hand over that wealth to him, he might be taken advantage of. Agreed? He's walking around. Everyone in the neighborhood knows so-and-so has £500,000 on him. Let me just go to him. Not to go and steal from him, but you know what? Let's try and use this loophole or this smoke screen of sucking that money out of him. Listen, I've got this product. I'm sure you're going to need it. Miskeen doesn't think straight. Young, naive. And then he beautifies to him, oh, you know what? This is a car that's like this and like that. Young child. He's not able to distinguish between what holds value and what is precious and what is not. Or some guy who wants to take advantage and takes him to the gold shop because, oh, you're going to need all of this gold. While him and the shopkeeper are planning to just suck him out of his money. He basically gets ripped off. So the Sharia now is saying, hold this money back from that individual. In order to protect who? To protect me? Or to protect this child? To protect this child. Likewise, brothers and sisters, this man, or should I say this boy, who still hasn't reached the age of competency. He hasn't become competent. He hasn't become sensible yet. Right? The Sharia is protecting him. The Sharia wants this young child only to spend his money accordingly after becoming sensible. I'm sure all of us have been immature at times, right, in our lives, where we did what they call stupid things, wishing that we didn't. So look how wise the Sharia, the legislator is, brothers and sisters. Right? Not everything that we are withheld from, right, is always the Sharia trying to Sharia is trying to make it difficult. La. So the first one that we mentioned, my brothers and my sisters, one is prevented from administrating his own wealth, right, due to 2 reasons. The first reason is what? Due to the best interest of this individual in order to protect him, and they are the 3 that we already made mention of. The slave, the one who hasn't reached the age of puberty, and also the one who hasn't reached the age of being competent. Right? He hasn't reached that maturity. No. Number 2, brothers and sisters, the second reason as to one being prevented from administrating his own wealth is due to the best interest of the creditor. The Sharia, brothers and sisters, also protects the one who did a good deed by lending so and so some money. Right? I lent Muhammad 500,000 pounds. Muhammad wanted to do business. He became bankrupt. However, he still has some assets, Muhammad. The judge rules that all of his assets are frozen. In order to protect who? Creditor. I need my money. I lent you 500,000 pounds. He also has other creditors who have lent him money. Abu Bakr, Uthman, they've all lent Muhammad money. Right? If we don't freeze his assets, who's going to really miss out? Who's going to miss out? Who's going to be unfairly treated? All of the creditors, right? Agreed? So because of that, brothers and sisters, right? Because of that, the Sharia takes into consideration the one who has lent that money, protecting him. So this is exactly the point, the reason why the Shaykh is mentioning all of this. We just spoke about, or what was one of the conditions of buying and selling? That there has to be رضا على الطرفين. Right? The buyer and the seller, they both have to exchange willingly or unwillingly or forcefully. What was the condition that I mentioned? Willingly. You can't force me into selling my car. Can you force me into selling my car? No, you can't. From the conditions is that it has to be done willingly. Does that make sense? Now this individual who has his assets frozen, he wants to now sell his house. He says, Allah said in the Quran that I can sell as long as I do it willingly. And this person wants to buy it from me willingly. La. We have another exemption here. What is this exemption? If the judge rules that his assets are frozen in order to pay back the creditor. In that case, my beloved brothers and sisters, you can't tell me I want to sell my stuff willingly. You are going against what Allah allowed me. La. Also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed this. Allowed for your assets to be frozen in order to protect that individual who tried to do you a favor by lending you money. You've blown that money. That 500,000 is no longer there. Someone else lent you another 300,000. And then there was a third guy who sent you another 400,000. You've blown all of that. Now they are in a bit of a pickle. They need money. Okay, they lent you money. So this is now when the judge comes in. Freezes his assets in order to pay back these individuals by selling this property now. And this property is then, that you have, it is sold. Yes, your house is forcefully taken out of your possession and then sold. Is everybody with me? Did everybody get that? So the gharim is the one who lent the money. Ghurama is the plural for gharib. The creditors who are now asking for the money that they lent to you. طيب. The next line of poetry says, وَتَثْبَتُ الشُّفْعَةُ لِلَّذْ بَاعَ شَرِيكُهُ نَصِيبَهُ الْمُشَاعَ. طيب. That which relates to shuf'ah. Has anyone heard of something called shuf'ah? Shaykh Muhammad. Heard of shuf'ah? ما رأيكم؟ طيب, let me give you guys an example, right? In English they call it preemption. Preemption. For those who know English, what does preemption mean? Or does that need a tafsir? An explanation or an interpretation or an elaboration? طيب. What's your name? Saqib. That's your friend. Your brother. What's your name? Saqib and Aqib. Or Aqib. Saqib and Aqib. طيب. Saqib and Aqib. they are walking past a lettings agent that sells properties, sells land. They walk in and they are given an offer that is too good to turn down. You have this land on Broad Street, £500,000. And in reality it's worth what? Over $1 million. It's an offer too good to turn down, صح? طيب. Both of them, they get the money together and they buy it. 50-50. Does that make sense? طيب. You have a land that is square shape. Did they come together and agree which part of the land is his and which part is not? They just bought it together, and this is what is referred to as musha'a, a unspecified, that which they have what? Bought. Is everybody with me so far? This term, preemption, ash-shuf'a, specifically means an opportunity to purchase an estate which is offered to one person before others. So in other words, brother and sister, it is a legal right of buying something before others. Right? Again, from the conditions of buying and selling, we mentioned that both the buyer and the seller, they have to do it willingly. Sahih? They have to do it willingly. You have saqib and you have aqib. They own this piece of land. One day aqib wakes up and he says, you know what? I need some money. Let me sell my share. What's his share? 50% of that, right? He phones, what's your name, brother? Taylor. He phones Taylor and says, listen Taylor, I know you were looking for some properties. I'll sell you my property for £750,000, which is basically 50% of that. Aqil is doing this willingly. Taylor is buying it willingly. Is there anything wrong with that?
Doesn't own it, man. Doesn't fully own it.
No, but he's only giving his half.
And they got established which half is which is whose half is who.
He mentioned, don't we have to establish whose half is who? Or whose half is which? In cases like this, my brothers and my sisters, when the land has not been specified, and this is very, very important because you find a lot of disputes always taking place amongst business partners, right? Imagine now, and I'll mention a very logical point, right? Imagine now you have Aqib who's selling it to Taylor, and Taylor turns out to be one of the biggest enemies of Saqib. Saqib used to go to sleep peacefully. Every night to go to sleep peacefully, not worrying about his business dealings, his land and so on and so forth. And now he's come to know that one of his worst nightmares, his biggest enemies has become what? His business partner. What do you think? Is that fair? Is it fair for Aqib to just sell his half without consulting Saqib? Can you see why this is very, very important? Preemption is a right that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the Sharia gives to a business partner to buy something before others are allowed to buy. Does that make sense, my brothers and my sisters? This in the Sharia is referred to as ash-shuf'ah. Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave the right of shuf'ah fi kulli ma lam yuqsam, in everything that has not been specified. Right? As long as it has not been specified, the business partner has the right to buy before everyone else. Like the example that I gave, they bought a piece of land and they didn't specify exactly which part is aqibs and which part is saqibs. This is what is known as musha'a, unspecified. Does that make sense? Saqib must be consulted by aqib before he sells it. Again, look how the Sharia, right, tries to protect business partners from future clashes and problems. Saqib fought with Taylor a couple of weeks ago. They hate one another. Sorry, Taylor, huh? Making you guys look like the bad people. Huh? They fought and they bashed heads with one another. And now Aqib is just going to send it to Taylor? So then you have Taylor and also Saqib having dealings with one another? This is when Saqib has a preemption, a shuf'a, meaning the right to buy before anyone else. So what happens here? We're still not done yet. Aqib consults Saqib and he says, listen Saqib, I want to get rid of my half. I want to get rid of my half of the land. You guys with me? Saqib says, oh no, I can't now. But you can't? In that case, if he doesn't have the funds ready, doesn't buy it imminently, he can go and sell it to whoever he wants. Like I said, he must consult his brother Saqib. He has to make sure that Saqib is made aware that he is about to sell his half. If he doesn't, this bay', even if it is done willingly, which is one of the conditions of buying and selling, right? Al-rida. إِنَّمَا الْبَيْعُ عَنْ تَرَاضٍ. A transaction can only be what? Assembled if it's done willingly by both the buyer and the seller. However, even though it's happening willingly here, he must consult what? Saqib. Does that make sense, brothers and sisters? فَهَذَا لَا بُدَّ مِنْهُ. Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also said, فَإِذَا وَقَعَتِ الْحُدُودُ وَصُرِّفَتِ الطُّرُقُ فَلَا شُفْعَةَ. This is another important thing, right? When Saqib and Aqib were buying it, what did we mention earlier? Did they specify which part of the land is Aqib's and which part of the land is Saqib? No. What if now they agree? You have a land that is what? Square shape. He says the left sided half is Saqib's and the right sided half is Aqib's. Here it's been what? Distributed. It's been shared. It's been agreed how much each or which part each of them will what? Own. In this case, does he have to consult him? Doesn't. He can just put it on the market. Whoever wants to buy it can buy it. And he doesn't have the right to buy before others. Does that make sense, my brothers and my sisters? Likewise, if you have a business partner, a shop that you own. A shop that you own. Would the same apply? Yes, it does. It applies in everything except what? You know, you have a house and you have a neighbor. Before you sell your house, you have to tell your neighbor who you're going to be selling it to. Do you have to consult him? According to the majority of the scholars, no. Yeah, you live on 45 Broad Street. 46 Broad Street is your neighbor. You want to sell your house. Do you have to give him the right to buy before everyone else? Or can you just go and put it on the market straight away? Put it on the market straight away. According to the majority of the scholars, khilaf in Hanafiya. Unless, of course, they are business partners, otherwise not. Okay. So even, brothers and sisters, if it's now been sold, Saqib can turn around and say, no, can be what? Retrieved. He then has the right to buy it off of that individual before it is handed over to anyone else. Jameel. Give me one moment, brothers.
Sorry, while Ustadh is we've got this questionnaire, inshallah. We're going to continue. Just 1 second. The questionnaires that you've been given, you're going to fill them in, inshallah. At the end of the lecture, you give them back, inshallah. Try to fill them in. They've got 2 sides. Pass the pen on, the pens that you've been given, so that others can fill them in. Barakallahu fikum.
Hey brothers, do it at the end because I need you guys to focus. He then goes on to say, وَالْمَالُ ذُو نَفْعٍ مُبَاحٍ عَيْنُ أَقْسَامُهُ وَالنَّفْعُ ثُمَّ الدَّيْنُ. Here he speaks a little bit about what is considered wealth. He says that which holds value. ذُو نَفْعٍ. Right? Al-mal, when you look at wealth, in order for it to be considered fit to deal with, it has to be what? ذو نفع. That which carries value. Probably thinking to yourself, what has this got to do with anything? I'm going to explain, inshallah. ذو نفع مباح. It also has to be lawful, mubah for you to use, right? مباح عين أقسام. And this is what of different types. This is of different types. That which falls under wealth can be considered different things. Like وَالنَّفْعُ, something that holds value. ثُمَّ الدَّيْنُ, also debt is a type of wealth that holds value. What does that mean, brothers and sisters? Let me give you guys an example. Al-Allamatu Tijariyah. Alamatu Tijariyah. Have you guys heard of TM or C? What do you guys call that in English? A pattern, right? That's what they call a pattern, صح? I think that's maybe an American term. I remember many years ago I used to watch Shark Tank. One of the first questions that the tycoon asks this individual now who's proposing his business, is your business patent? Not how they use it here, I'll pattern you up. Not that. Do you have a patent for your business? What does patent mean? Owning an idea. Is that actually money like that you have, tangible? But it is something that holds a lot of value, صح? The ihkam would also apply here. Also, that which my brothers and my sisters holds value or is considered wealth is something that I have now sold you, which I'm going to be handing over at a later date. Does that make sense? You've now passed £1,000 to me. I told you I'm going to give you that product in a week's time. Is there anything wrong with that? No, there isn't. Is there anything wrong with that? We've agreed I'm going to just give it to you, inshallah ta'ala. It's in Scotland in a moment. I'm going to drive down the car and I'll give it to you. But you could buy it off me right now, give me the money. There's nothing wrong with that. Is there anything wrong with that? Jameel. So in essence, or in other words, brothers, he is saying what mal actually is. All of this, my brothers and sisters, is wealth that holds value. Right? The pattern of a particular idea. You came with this particular idea, otherwise someone else can go and copy you. And if they copy, you can sue them. Did you know that? There are certain ideas and certain business ideas that you come with, brothers and sisters, that is exclusive to you, providing that you what? Buy the pattern, or you get the pattern done. Exclusive, or TMC. These signs are what? Trademarks. Jameel. Then he goes on to speaking about each one as to whether it is different to your average transactions that you have. He says, وَشَرْطُ بَيْعِ دَيْنِهِ بِدَيْنِ قَبْضُكَ فِي الْمَجْلِسِ أَيَّ دَيْنِ. Pay attention, brothers and sisters, right? That which is referred to as selling debt with debt. Is that something that is allowed? I'll give you guys an example. I'm a date seller. Forget about date seller. I sell phones. I sell phones. I say to you, I don't have the phones on me now. I have the phone in Scotland. I just need to go and get it. Give me the money. How much are the phones? It all comes up to £1,000. Does that make sense? He checks his pockets and he realizes, oh, I don't have the £1,000 on me. Khalas, the transaction that goes ahead, it stands as assembled. It's been sold to you and I bought it. Is that something that is allowed? I'll mention it again, brother and sister. Pay attention to how I'm conceptualizing it. Right? I sell phones. But before we go into the surah, the average, or should I say, the basic dealing in order for this transaction to be assembled is for me to hand over the phone there and then, and for you to give me the money. Sah? This is how normally buying and selling takes place. Does that make sense? You need a phone, I need the money. I give you the phone and you give me the money. Done, dusted. Does that make sense? This is how you would normally deal. This is a normal way of buying and selling. Agreed? Muhammad, أنت معي? أنت معي? Are you guys with me? Jameel. However now, let's change up the conceptualization of this issue for a moment. You know how we mentioned earlier, both of them have that which is exchanged. He's got the money, he has the phone. The exchange has taken place. Is there anything wrong with that? Absolutely not. Second scenario. The seller says, I don't have the phones on me now. The phones are in Scotland. I will give it to you in a week's time. Right? Muhammad says to Abu Bakr, I'll give you the phones in a week's time. Abu Bakr says, no problem. Take the money. He's given him the £1,000. Is there anything wrong with that? No, absolutely nothing. Third scenario now. Muhammad says to Abu Bakr, the phones are in Scotland. I can't hand it over to you now. I'll give it to you in a week's time. So if you want to pay now, tfaddal, pay. Abu Bakr checks his pocket, he goes, I don't have it. I'll give it to you in 2 days' time. This is what you call bay'u dayni bid-dayn. Selling debt with debt. And this is not allowed. You must at least have one of the two that is being handed over. one of the two needs to be handed over in order for this transaction to be valid. Does that make sense? تعال. Come stand here. I want you to explain that on the mic. What I just mentioned. Give me a third scenario.
The third scenario.
Third scenario now.
Okay, so he mentioned that Muhammad was the one who was selling the phones, and Abu Bakr was the one who had the money, which was to be 1,000. So Muhammad said, I don't have the phone, it's in Scotland, but I can get it to you in 7 days, a week's time. And then Abu Bakr checks his pockets, I don't have the 1,000 on me, can you give me 2 days and I'll give it to you, the money. And that's what you call Bay al-Din bid-Din.
نعم. Good. Excellent. Wonderful. فتح الله عليك. Selling something on debt. Okay? Selling something while it's on debt. Does that make sense? You must have at least one of the two that is being handed over in order for it to be valid. In order for it to be valid, one of the two needs to be handed over. Otherwise, this type of transaction, my brothers and my sisters, is not valid. And again, it's one of those very common dealings that people are having today. Right? If I hand over the money, fine, no problem. You can give it to me even after a year if you want, no problem. However, if they say, listen, I don't have the product and you don't have the money, the transaction goes ahead. As it stands, it's been sold and you are now the owner of them phones, which I'm going to be handing over in a week's time. This, my brothers and my sisters, لا يجوز. This is a type of transaction that is what? Haram. طيب. Then he goes on to something else. بيع مبيع العين قبل القبض صح كذي الكتب وهذه الأرض. البيع قبل القبض is another مسألة. Selling something before it has entered into your possession. Selling something before it has come into your possession. نهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أن يبيع الطعام قبل أن يقبض أو قبل أن يكتال. طيب, brothers and sisters, عاقب, he sells water. The water is in the fridge. He's got a corner shop, news agent. Huh? I go up to Aqib and say, I want that water. You guys with me? I want the water. Before I take possession of this, I've given him the money. I've given Aqib the money. I've given him £1. But it's still not in my possession because I need to go to the fridge, get the water out, and so on and so forth. I get a phone call and somebody says, listen, Akhi, I desperately need water. Right? Can I sell this water to my friend who's just called me before taking it in possession? This is the mas'ala here. This is the issue. The scholars all agree that if it is ta'am, if it is food that is normally weighed, it must be weighed before you can sell it on. Does that make sense? Because the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam يباع الطعام قبل أن يكتال. Right? He prohibited that you sell food يعني up until it's what? Weighed. Once it's weighed, خلاص, the fact that it's weighed, خلاص, you go and sell it on. Does that make sense? What about now? Everything other than food that is weighed. Product. This is also when this whole issue of drop shipping comes in. Selling something before it has entered into your possession. Right? It's a bit of a deep issue. However, according to the Hanabila, the scholars of the Hanbali madhab, right? They say, as long as it's not something that is weight, it can be what? Sold off. However, don't take what I'm saying and then you run with it, because a lot of these business transactions online, they have so many different strings attached to it. I'm not outrightly saying that drop shipping in its every form is what? Halal. I'm not saying that. However, I hope you guys understand the concept. Something that you've bought which hasn't already come into your possession, you're still waiting for it to be delivered. But then you realize that the driver who's delivering your products is maybe what? In London at the moment. You get a phone call. Someone saying he wants to buy them thobes that the driver has. Can you sell it? لا بأس قبل أن يقبض. That's why he gives us an example. صح كذي الكتب وهذه الأرض. Look, this ard here, I've just bought it, or these books, I've bought it, but it still has not come into my possession yet. Can I sell it off before I take it into my possession? According to what we are taking here, it is allowed. But he says, لا في المكيل بيع والمذروع ونحوها في القبض شرط روعي. طيب والدين لا يباع قبل قبضه إلا لمن هو عليه أمضه. But don't worry about that too much, inshallah ta'ala, maybe explain another time. Let's move on to these lines of poetry, inshallah ta'ala. I think they're very, very important, and we'll stop there. Right? And this is when it gets very, very practical as well. It says, وَلَا يَصِحُ الْبَيْعُ مِمَّنْ تَلْزَمُ جُمْعَتُهُ بَعْدَ النِّدَاءِ وَيَحْرُمُ. Right? He says, it is not allowed. It is not lawful for one to sell if he qualifies for Jum'ah. What does that mean? Do you qualify for Jum'ah? Is the Jum'ah obligatory upon you guys? Attending Jum'ah prayer? So you qualify as a Jum'ah attendee. أليس كذلك? طيب. How many adhans are normally there for Jum'ah? What about here in this masjid? Do they have two or one? Come on guys, you guys don't know what happens in your masjid? يا عم الشيخ ايش عندكم نداء ولا نداء واحد يا محمد? Everyone's confused here, you need to help them out. How many adhans do you guys have in the masjid? One. طيب, in Mecca and Medina they have two. They have one, right? And then they have another just before the Imam starts the khutbah. You know when the Imam gets onto the minbar and he says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and then somebody does the adhan. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. This is considered the second. This is considered the second. In a lot of places around the world, they do two adhans. Many others, they only do one. Does that make sense? This adhan that we hear on a Friday, brothers and sisters, is actually in essence the second in most places. Does that make sense? طيب. Allah said in the Quran, here, brothers and sisters, in this chapter, these next 5 lines of poetry, Al-Buyu' al-Muharram wal-Batila. It tells us about the buyu', the types of transactions that are what? Impermissible and invalid. One of them is when the adhan goes off and you're someone who must be attending the Jum'ah, right? You are someone who must be attending the Jum'ah and the adhan has just gone off. You are outside, you see the thobe guy getting his stuff out and putting it in front of the masjid. Are you quickly allowed to buy his thobe? يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر وذروا البيع. Allah says in the Quran, oh you believe. When the adhan goes off, يعني the second adhan, which is the Adhan that is called when the Imam says Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh after ascending onto the pulpit. You're coming towards the masjid, you always find most masajid, they've got a guy who comes in front, he's selling utur, he's selling atar, he's selling thobes, like this one here. Okay? And you're like, wow man, that's such an amazing thobe. If I don't buy it from him properly, someone else is going to precede me and take it from him. Let me quickly buy it. If you buy that from him after the adhan goes off, that bay', that transaction is invalid. Haram. As Allah says, وَذَرُ الْبَيْعَ وَذَرُ الْبَيْعَ. Leave off that transaction. Leave off that deal of buying and selling. That money, brothers and sisters, that he's just earned is hadar. It is haram money. You know when you sell drugs, that's haram money, right? Or when you cheat the government, that's haram money, sah? Also, this is not considered haram money. What do you guys think? You guys heard of this masala before? Or is this new? I remember, may Allah forgive me, many years ago I did that. I bought some siwaks as I was walking into the masjid and the adhan already got off. And then the seller was more than happy to sell it to me. He was only expecting to make money after the Jum'ah, but he made me some money before that. Does that make sense? It's not allowed. What about a woman? The adhan's gone off. Do the women have to be attending the Jum'ah? What if now she buys and she sells? Is that okay?
Yes.
It's perfectly fine because the Jum'ah is not wajiba upon her. It is not mandatory upon her. Does that make sense, my beloved brothers and sisters? What about a young child who has not reached the age of puberty? It's not wajiba.
You can't buy it.
Huh?
You can't buy it.
Why not?
Like you said, ta'adud.
Yeah, but you know, even if it's something small. Like,
What about the seller? If
Eh?
he can sell, if he's selling before the Jum'ah, if he's adult? Because obviously there's buyer and the seller.
before the adhan, that's buying and selling has been told.
If man sell to the woman or to the kid, he can still be selling.
He's not allowed to sell it, you're not allowed to buy.
Exactly.
Bay' completely.
Yeah.
Right? Two women, can they sell to one another? No, that's no problem. Does that make sense? They are allowed to sell to one another. What if now, sorry Shaykh, one second. Let me just give this example to Allah say. What if now I'm someone who sells these thobes and I send my little son to start selling outside of the masjid while the adhan is going off. And he's just selling something very small, you know, very cheap, like siwaks. He's allowed to do that, right? Something very cheap. Remember earlier we exempted that, sah?
No, it's not.
Huh?
No, it's not.
He's selling it to maybe women, or he's selling it to non-Muslims. Is that alright?
No, it's not.
It's not. It's still his father's property, isn't it?
And what do you guys think?
He's selling the masjid or outside the masjid compound?
Outside. Outside.
Is it within the masjid compound?
No, it's outside. It's outside.
Yeah, outside is fine.
But isn't this now his dad's wealth?
Yeah.
Huh? Isn't it his dad selling it in essence? He just entrusted him to do it for him. عرفتم؟ طيب. What about marriage? Can somebody do a nikah after the adhan is gone off? There's a guy who's roasting. Huh? He's Arab, he can't even concentrate, doesn't want to go to Jum'ah, even though he has to go to Jum'ah. And then he's got the sheikh to his house, and then the sheikh is like, hurry up, brother. I've been waiting for the last hour. The adhan goes off. Can they do a nikah? They said it's allowed because this is not actually buying and selling. Likewise, also when you have what? Giving out a loan. You know, loan. Is this not buying and selling? It's not.
No riba.
No, just a loan. I have to sign a contract, right? I'm lending you money, I want you to sign a contract. Can I give a contract after, or can I give out a loan and get the contract signed? After the adhan has gone off, it's still valid. Of course, you need to be in the masjid, but we're talking about now the validity of this transaction.
Right.
That's what the Shaykh.
Now, so sometimes it depends on. I'm just inquiring about this because certain masajids they have different times of adhans. For example, this one may be like half an hour later than the other one. So which other should I go for?
The masjid that you're normally praying at.
Okay.
Masjid that you're normally praying at.
Right.
Generally speaking, there should only be one Jum'ah. Right? If we was in a Muslim country, I remember you in Yemen, there would be so many different masajid, but Jum'ah is only established in the big masjid. So all the small masajid, they would not have Jum'ahs. But of course, now you have tribal issues. Like in Leicester, you see a masjid, gets into a little bit of an issue, then decides to open a masjid 10 steps away. And then there's another masjid around the corner, and another masjid here, 7 masjid in the same area, everyone has their own Jum'ah times.
Now, what about this transaction that we normally do on the masjids for contribution for the masjids? Sometimes you find some brothers outside around within the time. When you come in, they give you the card machines to pay or to contribute something.
Allah, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Man massa al-hasa faqad lagha." Whoever touches, the stones, straightens it up. Because before they used to pray on stones and pebbles. They didn't have carpets. Just doing that, this person has one lagha. It reduces from his Jum'ah. Reduces from his Jum'ah. How about the person walking around, I think it should be only done when they are entering into the masjid, and then after as well. After walking around, is something that many masajid have taken leniency towards. Unless of course you are guarding. Unless of course you are guarding the masjid, and you're giving khidmah to the Muslims in that sense, just sit. طيب. We're nearly done, brothers, huh? Number 2. وَبَيْعُ مَا يُعْصَرُ لِلْخَمَّارِ. I like this one. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time and give you guys practical examples. What do they call the one who makes the wine? They've got a name for him. Like the guy who works for Heineken. They've got a name for it. الذي يعصر. The alcohol winer or something? Huh? The brewer. Jamil. That's the one I was looking for. The guy who brews the wine. Here the Shaykh he talks about وَبَيْعُ مَا يُعْصَرُ لِلْخَمَّارِ. Brothers and sisters, grapes. Is there anything wrong with me eating grapes? Halal, صح? Everybody eats grapes. طيب. Me now selling grapes to someone who's going to brew khamar. Is that allowed?
No.
Even the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even though there's a weakness in the narration, however the ma'na is sahih, right? من حبس العنب أيام القطاف حتى يبيعه ممن يتخذه خمرا till the end of the day فقد تقحم النار شيئا among the lands كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. What some do is they hold back the grapes even after it has become ripe. So this grape now, brothers and sisters, reaches a point which is extremely beneficial for the one who brews these fruits, turning it into wine. Sure, we've seen Cartoon Network, in the past where they get grapes and they turn it into wine and sahih. Everybody knows that. With these grapes, you can turn it into wine. Am I now allowed to sell grapes? Am I allowed to sell grapes in my market or in my store? Yes, I can. However, am I now allowed to sell it to someone who I know is going to use it for haram? Allah says in the Quran, وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. Do not cooperate in sin and evil. Let me give you guys a couple of examples, right? I have a lighter. I remember there was a time when my father had a grocery store. He had a butcher at the back, travel agency in the front, and he used to sell what? Basic accessories, right? That which you would find in a grocery store. And we had people always walking in, selling, wanting to buy a lighter. Also, we had a barber right next to the grocery store. And the barber would always love to buy from us, because we used to bring it from Saudi Arabia, the razor. We had a very sharp type of razor that was extremely effective. Like, let's use the lighter as an example. Somebody walks in and he wants to buy a lighter. Am I allowed to sell a lighter?
Yes. Yeah.
3 scenarios, brothers and sisters. And I want everybody to write this down, because this is one of the most common situations you find yourself in. The base ruling of selling this lighter is that it is allowed. However, we have these 3 scenarios. When can I sell it? When can I not? If somebody walks in and he's thinking of cigarettes, it is very likely that he's going to buy this lighter from me in order to do haram. Am I allowed to sell it to him? No, I'm not. And that is when there is a clear indicator, qarina, that this individual now is going to use it for haram. It's pretty clear. The guy smells of cigarettes. I can't say 110% he's going to use it for that, but it's very likely because of the state that he's in. Number 2, brothers and sisters, a jilbabi walks in. She's wearing hijab. She's also wearing niqab. And then she said, Ya Muhammad, give me a lighter. This jilbab is going to take the lighter and start smoking a fag. What's the likelihood that she will be using it for haram?
More for incense stick stuff, like this cooking.
Cooking, bukhor at home.
It's benefit of now.
Yes. Here is very, very highly unlikely that she's going to use it for haram. So can I sell it to her? Third scenario. Somebody walks in and I just can't tell what he's going to use it for. He is not thinking of cigarettes, and he's not like, of course, you know, that jilbabi who's wearing a hijab, very likely, highly unlikely she's going to be using it for that. You can't tell at all. Are you allowed to sell it to him?
Yes.
Al-Asl, the base ruling is that you can sell it to him until proven otherwise. Does that make sense? And of course, you have to take into consideration the law of discrimination. I remember having a discussion with my father. He was like, especially in today's day and age, if you discriminate, before you know it, you might receive a letter from the local court looking to prosecute you for discrimination. So you have to take that into consideration as well. What do you want to know?
So what about if you sell it online?
I'm going to come to that. Right? Let me give you guys another example. MP3s. Selling MP3. Or selling headphones. Ooh.
They don't call them MP3 anymore.
They forget about MP3. You got our AirPods. AirPods. ما رأيكم؟ I'm nearly done with me, brothers, yeah? ما رأيكم? Again, the 3 scenarios apply. If somebody's walking in, he's walking in like that. This guy, you can hear the music in the background, right? Because of how loud it is, even though he's still in his headphones. And I said, listen, mate, can I have the AirPods that you're selling? Am I allowed to sell it to him? Technically, la. Does that make sense? طيب, what about selling perfumes to women?
Same, 3 ruling. If she smells like perfume in cooking place, I think then you shouldn't.
Again, you have to assess the situation. You have to what? Assess the situation. Does that make sense? She's walking around like the Barbie she is, hair out, revealing clothes and whatever have you, what is the likelihood that she's going to be what? Wearing that perfume? Very likely. And some even walk into the shop with all that scent on her. And we know that a woman cannot walk outside of the house. As the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لا تمنعوا إماء الله مساجد الله إذا استأذنكم إليها. If your female folk seek permission to go to the masjid, you as a husband or a father or a brother, you're not allowed to stop her from going to the house of Allah Azza wa Jal. But the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, she should leave وَلْيَخْرُجْنَ وَهُنَّ تَفِلَاتٍ. Unbeautified, unscented, she should leave like that. Does that make sense, brothers and sisters? She's not allowed to leave like that. She should only be beautifying herself for who? None other than her husband. Right? Or if she's in a woman's gathering, to smell nice and to look nice, لا بأس ما في إشكال. طيب, a very common question is, I'm a hairstylist, I'm a hairdresser. I have sisters coming to me, they want their hair done, or they want henna done. Let's speak about the hairdresser. Some women who are hijabis genuinely want to get their hair done because they want to look nice in front of their husbands. However, a woman walks in and she's what? Wearing revealing clothes, right? Her hair is out. When you do her hair, what's she going to be doing, brothers? Walking outside with it, صح? The qaida is, the principle is, وَلَا تَعَاوُنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. Do not aid in sin and evil. And of course, I'm not saying that you should slam the door, shut in her face. You should not try to be soft and gentle. I can't. Make up excuses. Try to subtly make her understand. Likewise, the example that is normally used also is selling cups, glass, to a pub owner. Even though the base ruling is that I can sell it, it's fine. Sah? Let me tell you guys about one time I was working for Tawfiq. Have you guys heard of Tawfiq? Tawfiq. There's no Tawfiq? What is Tawfiq? I remember I came back, it was in the Corona period, and then I have a righteous manager. MashaAllah, upon the Sunnah, he was like, come in. It was at a time when there was no jobs. All the masajid were locked. I remember my dad sat me down when I came back from Medina. It was in the Corona period. He was like, listen, whatever money you have, hold on to it. Because these kuffar are about to eat one another. Because this is something that happened in Brixton. I think in the 1950s, because they didn't have finance or they didn't have money, they started eating one another. They even done this, I think, in Alabama, America. When there was an earthquake, they started actually feeding one another. Started killing one another and what? Eating one another's flesh. Allah musta'an. So my dad was like, listen, whatever money you have. And then alhamdulillah, I went and made dua and then Allah Azza wa Jal granted me a job. Brother just said, listen, you know what? Just walk in while everybody has to go through Indeed. They have to take interviews. They have to pass the exam. He was like, listen, just walk in. Like a week in, it didn't even, subhanAllah, occur to me when I got onto the phones, right? This is after being trained to sell internet packages, phone packages, and TV packages. So after a week, it just like, the penny dropped. I said, what am I doing? I called my manager, I need to have a sit down with you. Right? Because there are 3 things that are being sold. And I just taught you guys these 3 different scenarios. Sah? Anything wrong with selling telephone packages? Minutes. Unless, of course, the guy says to me directly, I'm going to be using it for whatever. It's a different case. Anything wrong with telephone packages? La. What about TV packages? Selling entertainment packages? Or selling Netflix? What do you think of selling Netflix, brothers? What do you guys think? Please no one tell me, oh, you know, there's good on there and there's bad on there. And maybe some good in there, but how much % of that? 0.01%? Or you see animals, animal documentaries and So I'll tell you guys what happened. And then you have also the third, which is an internet package. Hey, what about internet now? It's a bit of a difficult one, right? I sat down with the manager and I said to him, listen, there's one of two options here. Either I'm going to walk out today, or you're going to find me a solution. Because I looked up the website of these TV packages, especially the entertainment package, because it's part of, it's like the selling point for the TV package. You get an entertainment package with it. And it's got all sorts of filth in there. I thought, is there even a way out? Is there even a khair? Nothing. I was like, Sheikh, tafadhal. Either I'm going to walk out of this workplace today, or you have to give me permission not to sell these TV packages. I was like, Muhammad, no worries, don't. Because right when you get onto the call, you have to what? Start pitching for all of these three things. They want to make money. And they get money if you what? Sell all three together. So I was like, I can't do this. He was like, no problem. You don't have to do it. Then we have another issue with the internet. Internet can be used for good and bad, right? Sometimes I get on, the guy says to me, listen, I want the entertainment package. I'm trying to change the conversation. I'm not trying to sell it to him. And I was like, oh, you want internet? Okay, let's go with the internet. And I'm trying to change the conversation. We're going to the internet. And he goes, bro, listen, I really want the entertainment package. ماذا أفعل? Oops, accidentally the call dropped. طيب. That's one case. Other cases, wallahi, some guys, a'udhu billah, gets on the phone, because depending on what he wants to use the internet for, you sell him a particular internet package. Some with higher MBs, some with less. So you have to ask them what they're going to be using the internet for. Some guys with no shyness says, I'm going to be streaming beep. Shaitan. Clearly, yeah, I'm going to be watching this tonight and this and that. And there's a lot of young people here, so I'm not going to say it. Some are actually buying the internet in order to watch adult content, filth and evil. Because it's a sales department, right? And you get bonuses based on how much you sell. Beep. Accident. Does that make sense, brothers and sisters? I Islamically cannot sell that. However, if the guy does not tell me, some kuffar, they still have a bit of shyness, right? They still say to me, listen, I just want the internet, I want the highest MB, kada wa kada. Should I ask them now, oh, what, are you going to be watching this tonight? And are you going to be doing that? La, ma yahtaj. I go with it. Up until I find out what he's going to be using it for. Only then I can't. Does that make sense? And subhanAllah, the ajib thing is, even my manager said this to me, right? I one time approached him and I said, am I the only one who's not stressed out here? Because everyone there, Muslims and non-Muslims, they would go out for hourly fags, hourly cigarettes. And I asked him, did everyone here before they started smoke? Or did they only start smoking after they came here? It was like they only started smoking, well, many of them, even Muslims, you see a hijabi walking out taking a fag. Why? Stressed out. Sales can be very, very stressing. And subhanAllah, after I made that decision, brothers and sisters, and I'll share this with you guys, every couple of weeks they would have incentives. You guys know what incentives are? Whoever gets the highest sales, he gets £100, just like that. One time there was £70, the next 3 incentives, guess who won it? Abu Taymiyyah. And does not have previous sales experience. Wallahi, I honestly believe it was because of Allah. Because of me leaving it for the sake of Allah. Right? Because here, I have to sell TV packages. And sometimes, I hang up. And by the way, guys, you're not allowed to do it. But even, we had some sort of in-house agreement with my manager. Make sure you cut that out of the video. I don't want to get into trouble. Before that, لا بأس مشي الحال. Act like accident. Oops. Huh? Even though I would miss out on sales, which would be affecting my bonus, but subhanAllah, Allah Azza wa Jalla will give me more. Huh? What was the hadith I mentioned yesterday? You don't leave something for the sake of Allah except Allah gives you that which is better. Does that make sense? Like very, very quickly, inshallah ta'ala. Like, here the Shaykh then goes on to say, also that which is impermissible is البيع للثمار أو قبل الصلاح البيع للثمار. Selling grain before it has become hard, before it's become ripe. Does that make sense, brothers and sisters? You know, you have fruits, you have grains that might not necessarily be ready yet. Are you allowed to sell it? نهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن بيع الثمر حتى يبدو صلاحها نهى البائع والمبتاع. You're not allowed to sell it, nor are you allowed to what? Buy it. Both the seller and the buyer are being prohibited up until it becomes ripe. What this means is that when the grain is ripe in the spike, it is permitted to sell the crop. Or you have a barren land, you say to the buyer, I will sell you whatever this land produces. طيب, هذه مسألة ثانية. الشاهد من الكلام, my brothers and my sisters, up until it becomes ready, Islamically you're not allowed to sell it. حتى يبدو صلاحها. However, 3 scenarios are exempted. إلا مع الأصل أو القطع شرط. You have a palm tree. And this palm tree, brothers and sisters, has all these fruits that are growing on it that are still not ready. Are you allowed to buy the palm tree? You are allowed to buy it. And that is because you are buying the root of this tree. Buying the palm tree. Even if there is fruits that are not ready, it is allowed in this case because you are buying the asal. You are buying the asal. However, individually, buying this pineapple or buying this fruit that is not ready, it's not allowed. Or, second scenario that is exempted, أو القطع شرط. If he says now, if he now says, listen, I'm going to cut it and then I'll buy it. Is that allowed? Yes, it is. I'm going to cut it and then I'm going to buy it. For him to say, listen, I'm going to buy these fruits that are not ready, however, I'm going to come back when it's ready, then I'll take it. That's not allowed. And this is what we said is prohibited. However, if he says there and then I'm going to cut it off, take it, even if it's not ready, because you might ask yourself the question, what is he going to do with fruits that are not ready? People, they give it to their sheep. That's the second scenario. ثالثا لمالك الأصل فقط. Right? I just sold it now to Muhammad. Right? And then Muhammad wants to sell it back and I change my mind. Right? Can I buy these fruits that are not ready from him? Yes, I can. Because أنا مالك الأصل. If you didn't understand it, don't worry too much about it, inshallah ta'ala. This is very irrelevant to a lot of us. Then he says, وَيَحْرُمُ الرِّبَى وَبَيْعُ الْغَرَرِ وَأَخْذُ مَالٍ دُونَ حَقٍّ قَدْ دُرِي. He said it is haram when it comes to 3 things, and we made mention of this yesterday. The root causes of haram elements in a transaction is what? 3 things. Who can give it to me? Tafadhal. Ambiguity. Gharar. Good. Riba. Jameel.
Taking someone's wealth unjustly.
Taking somebody's wealth unjustly. Let me quickly just scratch the surface of riba. Riba is of 2 types. Right? Riba al-diyun wa riba al-buyur. Riba in loans. and riba in transactions. And the riba in transactions of two types, riba nasi'a or riba al-fadl. Let's put that to the side for a moment. Okay? First two is what? Riba al-diyun wa riba al-buyu'. Riba in loans. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, من زاد واستزاد فقد أربى الآخذ والمعطي فيه سواء. Whoever gives and whoever takes for more. Whoever gives for more, whoever takes for more. This person has fallen into riba. The one giving and the one taking, they are the same. Brothers and sisters, you need money, you come to me and you say, Muhammad, help me out, I need 10,000 pounds. I say to you, I won't give you the 10,000 pounds unless you give me 12,000 back. Is that allowed? This is what? Interest, right? That's what they call interest. Is this something that is pleasing to Allah Azza wa Jalla? It is from the worst of sins. It is from the worst of sins. Mortgage falls under this as well, right? Taking a house on mortgage, ask for a loan and then you end up paying double back or triple back. Look how oppressive this is. They literally take advantage. You die, you enter into your grave while you are waging a war with Allah. Allah said in the Quran, and you tell me if there's any other sin in the Quran that has this kind of wa'id, that this kind of punishment. يا الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا إن كنتم مؤمنين فإن لم تفعلوا فأذنوا بحرب من الله ورسوله. If you don't stop, then you have started a war with Allah. Have started a war with Allah. Quickly before we move on, right? Have you ever thought about as to why an individual might go to the bank to take a huge loan to buy a house? Have you guys ever thought about what may be the causes? What I'm about to tell you may shock a lot of you. Or maybe a car on haram finance. You know what the reason is? Maybe because he didn't lower his gaze. What do you guys think? Maybe because he didn't lower his gaze, he has now gone to the bank and taken a loan which has triggered a war with Allah. Who can tell me how? How has this now, not lowering your gaze, triggered a war with Allah Azza wa Jal? Or him going to the bank to take a loan? Man yujibuni. Fatah Allah alayk. Jazakallah khair. When you're walking around gazing at the glitters and the glamours of this world, what does that do to your heart? It causes this intensifying desire in your heart to acquire it. What if you can't acquire it? What do? Go and take that loan. Your brother might be rich, he has a nice house. You walk into the house and you see all of this and it gets to you. Because he didn't lower his gaze, and this is exactly what Allah instructed his Prophet. What did he say to him? وَلَا تَمُدَّنَّ عَيْنَيْكَ إِلَى مَا مَتَّعْنَا بِهِ أَزْوَاجًا مِّنْهُمْ زَهْرَةَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَالدُّنْيَا لِنَفْتِنَهُمْ فِيهِ. Ya Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, do not gaze at the glitters and the glamours of this world. It is a fitna for them. وَرِزْقُ رَبِّكَ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. The provision of your Lord is more remaining. Right? Well, I think about it for a moment, brothers and sisters. Sees a nice car with a nice girl in there. He probably has that girl because he has a nice car. I need to go and get that. Or he falls in love with this girl, but she's now more inclined towards another guy because he has a nice car. Sah? I need to get that car now. Doesn't have the money. Either he goes and steals, or goes down the route of taking a haram loan. So you have a loan, tafadhal. Thanks, Sam.
It's just a question of, for example, people that go to university who are taking a student finance. What about that?
I don't give a fatwa on student finance. I don't answer that. With everyone, all the scholars, they agree that a student loan is a riba-based loan. Just the other day, my wife said to me, that there's this course, right? That if she enrolls on it, they will give her £9,000. And on top of that, they'll give her an extra £6,000 as well for child maintenance or whatever have you, all this stuff. Wallahi, it was so tempting. She was like, I can get an English diploma when we go to Saudi, I can maybe teach English. Is it really necessary for her? Is it a necessity? The answer is no. I went to the institute and I inquired, I sat down with the guy, I was like, listen, brother. And he keeps talking to me about how it's going to be paid. He goes, oh, most people, right? They will never earn 27,000, 28,000 pounds. They're just coming in for the 9,000 pounds and then they enjoy it and they say, salam, khalas. I was like, brother, I am a Muslim. All I care about is, will this loan incur interest? Because I don't know. So I phoned Student Finance, 0300, kada, kada, kada. I phoned them. They were like, every single one of these loans has interest, except that some have more than the other. Some of the interest on there is like 1.5%. 1.5%, very little, sah. Is it really necessary? Is it a necessity for her? The answer is no. Right? Am I now giving a fatwa saying that everybody should leave the university? I'm not saying that. Because this is something that involves 24 million Muslims in Europe, I don't think it's my place to give a fatwa to say whether it is halal or haram. I believe if Umar Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu was alive, he would gather all the participants of Badr and ask for their consultation. This requires scholars to come together and to really make a judgment. They all agree that it's haram. But now because of the situation, is it ma'qul now for us to tell everybody not to go to university and all of the harms and the positives of this? And it's something that needs to be talked about. One time I did a 2-hour webinar on this issue. And I just told, because it was a sister and a brother, the sister was doing a master's on student finance, right? And what the position of the Leicester scholars, not a scholar, but she was all the Leicester, Mashayikh, kada, what their view on this is. So she was interviewing me. 2 hours, I broke everything down for her. And she ended up getting a very high mark. Sent me a message after saying that she was even asked to speak in front of the mayor because of how good her thesis was. And I'm thinking I'm helping everybody get a master's and I don't have a master's myself. Maybe I need to get a master's as well now, huh? There's another guy got a PhD because I helped him on his thing. I don't have a PhD. At the end of the day, these titles don't make a difference in it. Huh? It's not about titles and certificates and whatever have you. طيب, الشاهد من الكلام, one of the parts of this webinar was providing alternatives. You know where I got a lot of these alternatives from? The kuffar. They themselves, they don't want to have this loan lingering over their heads. They themselves don't want it. Right? One of them is to work maybe part-time to help pay that off. It may well be a good idea to study part-time and then to work on top of that as well. Instead of doing it in 3 years, you end up finishing in 5 years. Is there really an issue with that? Do you have to do it in 3 years? So there are ways around it. Bursaries and things like that. So, giving out a loan, brothers and sisters. Let me ask you guys a question, right? I give, what's your name? Umar. Umar needs £10,000 because he wants to get married. You looking to get married? Huh? Inshallah, how old are you? 16. Get ready for now, inshallah. Huh? Umar needs £10,000. Right? I say to him, no problem. I'll give you the £10,000, but when you give it back to me, I also want the latest Adidas Yeezys. Is that allowed? I want the 10,000 plus the Yeezys. I don't want money, I just want trainers.
If the item was the amount you gave to them, it's okay, right?
If it's what?
If the amount of money you gave to him and then he gave you the Yeezys back, that's worth 10,000, it's okay, right?
I'll explain it. But you're close. Huh? The principle is, brothers and sisters, كل قرض جر منفعة فهو ربا. Every loan, brothers and sisters, that has a string attached to it which asks back for more in whatever capacity it may be. It could be money, it could be anything with value. It is still riba. Nike shoes, Adidas shoes, alongside the 10,000, riba. I remember one time me and my father were having a discussion because they had a Hajj agency, right? Because they needed some money. He asked me, am I allowed to say to a customer, give me £10,000 now, right? And I'll give you free visas. Say, لا يجوز كل قرض جر منفعة. Anything with value that is being repaid back on top of that loan, it is what? It is riba. Does that make sense?
Sorry, I'm just inquiring about this mortgage thing. When, for example, after a mortgage, after 10 years, I realized that, oh, this is total haram, I've decided to sell it. The money, should I use it or should I use it for the money that I've sold the property, which is the mortgage or which involves the haram, we get the interest?
Sure. Did that individual know that there was anything wrong with that?
Yeah, in the beginning, someone knew, but the man was maybe less low.
Okay.
Yeah.
He keeps his capital. The amount that he put in, he keeps that. The rest gets rid of it. Yeah?
He keeps some of it.
No, he keeps the amount that he put in. Capital. Right? It may have been like you have to put down an amount, صح? £30,000 is a down payment, right? As a deposit. And then every month he's putting an extra 1,000, every month he's paying that. We say whatever he put in from his own pocket, he keeps that. Right? وَإِن تُبْتُمْ فَلَكُمْ رُؤُوسُ أَمْوَالِكُمْ لَا تَظْلِمُونَ وَلَا تُظْلَمُونَ. If you make tawbah, you get to keep your capital, the amount that you put in. Allah does not oppress you. It doesn't wrong you. Keep the amount that you put in and then get rid of the rest.
So the rest, should I take like to the mosque or to the charity, or should I leave
Like just give it to someone, give it to the masjid, give it to whatever. Just get rid of it. Yeah. طيب. And this is وبيع الغرر. We've already spoken about ambiguity. وأخذ مال دون حق تقدري. This is now the last line of poetry. That what means is taking someone's wealth unjustly. قد علم. بيع على بيع أخي والعينة وشرها بيع الغبي دينه أو دينه. Next, and this is now the last line of poetry, and there is what? 3 things mentioned that are prohibited. Number 1, my beloved brothers and sisters, that is mentioned in this last line of poetry, بيع على بيع أخيه. To go behind your brother's back in order to nick the deal from under his nose after an agreement has been made. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, لا يبيع أحدكم على بيع أخيه. Let me give you guys an example. You have عاقب and you have ساقب. Aqib says to Saqib, I have sold you this product. Saqib agrees and then walks out. Saqib goes to another shop. This other shopkeeper says to him, listen, you bought it for £10, I'll sell it to you for £5. I'll sell it to you £5. Go give it back to him. This would be now going behind your brother's back and looking to nick that deal from under his nose. يجوز ولا لا? Is that allowed? No, it's not. The other scenario is this was actually الشراء على أخيه. Another one is, for example, you're in a shop, right? And you're negotiating with Muhammad. You say, I'll sell it to you for £10. He goes, okay, no worries, I'll buy it. And then there's another seller. He goes, no, I'll sell it to you for £10. So I'll sell it to you for less. Can you see how he's now infiltrating between the buyer and the seller? Does that make sense, brothers and sisters? Why is it prohibited? Doesn't this cause discord, animosity between Muslim brothers? This is only, brothers and sisters, after an agreement has been made. However, up until that happens, if he's just like thinking about it, I'll come back to you. And then he walks into another shop and he goes, oh, so-and-so offered me X amount. How much are you going to offer me? I'll offer you less, no problem. Is there anything wrong with that? La. If me and Umar, we agree, okay, no worries, khalas, I'll buy it from you. Now, the next step is that I hand over the money, that I hand over the money. If within that period now, somebody now tries to get in between us, this is something that has been prohibited. Give you guys another example which might be a lot more relatable. Going behind your brother's back to nick that woman from under his nose. Umar, 16-year-old, looking to get married, he comes across Yasmin. Him and Yasmin, they have a discussion about marriage. Yasmin says, I will think about it. She doesn't give him the green light. Okay, let's go ahead with it. La. I'm going to go and think about it. The next day, what's your name? Muhammad knocks on Yasmin's door. He was brothers, friend. And then he says, oh, Yasmin, I heard you are up for marriage. I sit down. And then they go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. She said, I will think about it. Aqib then knocks on the door. And then here's, this beautiful young lady called Yasmin. And then she says, you know what? I actually like you. And she says, fine, let's go ahead with it. Give him the green light. Can Umar then come behind his back and go back to Yasmin? No. And that is because she's given him the green light. Once the green light is given, from then on you are not allowed to go behind your brother's back. Does that make sense? Doesn't this happen a lot in football transfers? What do you guys think? Does it not happen a lot? It happens a lot, sir. Football transfers. They agree, right? And then this guy comes out of nowhere. Barcelona. Who are broke and still have money somehow. And they'll start offering you all sorts of things. We'll even pay for your mom's jacuzzi or whatever. And then his mind is turned. صح ولا لا؟ هذا لا يجوز. And last but not least, my brothers, the second thing is al-'ina. Al-'ina, which is a type of riba, and the Prophet ﷺ, he said, إذا تبايعتم بالعينة وأخذتم أذناب البقر ورضيتم بالزرع وتركتم الجهاد سلط الله عليكم ذلا لا ينزع عنكم حتى ترجعوا إلى دينكم. Once you start dealing with عينة, and you begin to chase after the dunya, and you leave over jihad, the right type of jihad, not ISIS jihad. Allahu Alam, there may be someone here as an undercover Channel 4 informant, but then records and says, he's recruiting for ISIS. No, I'm not. We condemn it. Right? Allah Azza wa Jalla will send down upon him a humiliation. He will not remove it until you come back to your religion. What is al-'ina? Brothers and sisters, pay attention. Earlier we spoke about loan, sah? Everybody agrees? That type is a type of riba that is pretty well known. Going to the bank, I need 10,000. They're not just going to give you 10,000 like that. They'll say you need to pay back more. طيب. 'Ina is some sort of cover-up. A loophole that is used to justify wanting more back on the loan that you have been given. Let's talk about person A and person B. Person A needs £10,000 to get married. He comes to person B, and then person A makes an agreement with him saying, all he wants is money, he just needs money, right? But look at the small screen that he used. He says, I will buy your car for £12,000, which is paid over 12 months. I will then sell you this car for £10,000 cash after buying it from you. Does that make sense? Let me repeat again. Right? Umar needs £10,000. Right? He comes up to me and he says, I need £10,000, but listen, I'm not going to give you £10,000, brother, like just like that. It doesn't work like that here. Huh? What benefit is in it for me? You guys with me? I'll say to him, listen, I'll sell you my car for £12,000, which you pay over 12 months. But I give you £10,000 cash now. Take out the car out of the equation. What do you find? £12,000 that needs to be paid within 12 months? £10,000 that I'm giving him now. He needed £10,000, right? Umar only needs 10,000. I'll give you 10,000. But I'm actually selling you my car. Car. Huh? £10,000 you need, right? No problem. I'll sell you my car. £12,000 that you need to pay back. I'm selling him. I'm going to say to him, listen, I'm going to sell you my car for £12,000 that you need to pay back within 12 months. Right? And look at the deception that he uses. I'll buy it back off you now for 10,000. Here, take the 10,000, but just pay me back. Can you see the deception that's being used here? This car is just like there as a surah. It is there to just like use this loophole to justify reclaiming more back in a loan that has been given. Shall I repeat it one last time? Trust me, a lot of banks use this as well. Those who call themselves Islamic. Umar, Habibi Umar, he needs £10,000. He wants to get married to Yasmin. زوجك الله امرأة صالحة. May Allah give you all righteous women. Say Ameen, brothers. How old are you? Huh? 8-year-old, huh? You want a righteous woman? You ready, huh? This is the man. Instead of going to Andrew Tate, go to him. طيب. أخونا عمر يريد, he wants, this is the, inshallah ta'ala, we need it done, brothers. He needs, how much? £10,000. Comes up to me, brother, we're in the 21st century, we don't just give money like that. I want something that I could what? Look forward to. I said to him, no worries. You need 10,000, right? Also, we don't want to be dealing with riba because Allah gets angry. But I've got a way out of it. I will sell you my car for £12,000 that you need to pay in installments over 12 months. It's January now. When do I want the 12,000 back? Next year, January. I want £12,000. I'm selling you my car. However, I'll buy that car off you now as well. I'll buy that car off you now as well. Because I need my car. And what's he going to do with the car? He doesn't need a car. He just needs £10,000. So instead of saying 12,000, what I'll do is, I'll give you 10,000. Here, take 10,000. Take my car back. And now what remains is what? What does he have to do now? In the next 12 months? How much does he have to give back? £12,000. It's basically, in other words, riba, fi diyun. Interest-based loan. This whole car business, marriage stuff, take that out. He needed 10,000. I said, no worries, I'll give him 10,000, give him back 12,000. But they just use this car as a smoke screen to try and make it what halal. Did everybody get that now? As a way to just like cheat the system. And the last thing that he mentions is وَشَرُّهَا بَيْعُ الْغَبِيِّ دِينَهُ. And the worst out of all the prohibited forms of buying and selling that we mentioned here is an idiot selling his religion. And this is the worst out of all of it. That you end up selling your religion. You put dirham and dinar, dollars and pounds before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that, wallahi, my brothers and my sisters, is idiocy. Is that even a word? Idiocy, sah? Or stupidity. That's what the Shaykh is trying to say here. Allah Azza wa Jal, remember what he said right at the beginning? What did he say right at the beginning? حمدا لمن بالحل في البيوع أغنى عباده عن الممنوع. All praise to the one who gave us enough alternatives that suffices us from haram. Agreed? We have enough alternatives. We have enough opportunities or enough ways to earn halal money. All you need to, my brothers and my sisters, have taqwa of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Stop selling your religion. Stop doing that which displeases Allah Azza wa Jalla for a couple of pounds, because money comes and money goes. Nothing is difficult upon Allah Azza. He can give you so much in a heartbeat. Have that relationship with Allah Azza wa Jalla. You don't need these haram means to acquire wealth. Right? Yes, at times you may struggle. But remember, it's the promise of Allah. Remember the hadith, and we'll conclude with my favorite hadith. Everyone should have written it down, and you should write in golden ink. You don't leave something for the sake of Allah except Allah will give you that which is worse or better. Allah will give you that which is better. I have witnessed it in my life. So many others have as well. When I gave them the hadith yesterday, I told you guys a story. I'll tell you guys this story, inshallah ta'ala, we'll finish. I have a neighbor called Najib. I remember he was working for Car Phone Warehouse in Loughborough. On the phones, call center. Suddenly, they imposed upon him to sell insurance. Before he was just phone selling. Now it's what? He has to sell insurance. He told me that he went to the manager telling him, listen, this is something that conflicts with my religion, I can't do it. Manager said he's going to speak to his man and get back to him. After he got back to him, he said, listen, you have to do it. It's part of your job. You can't say no. I remember the brother came up to me, wallahi, could see, it was coming from a place of pain. And he just got married as well. Wallahi, just got married. And when you just got married, brothers and sisters, the girl likes to be taken out to where? Restaurants, heavenly desserts. You guys got one in Coventry, right? We have one in Leicester as well. They have the best cookie dough. A shahid, by the way, that's not free promotion, that's free, huh? Of course, it's pretty pricey, صح? It's pretty pricey. أليس كذلك؟ بلى. Like him, and I told him this hadith. He left his job, brothers, sisters. He was, I think, at the time getting £17,000 a year. £17,000 a year. Working for Car Phone Warehouse, and every day he's driving there, half an hour there and half an hour back. Right? That adds up throughout the month, sah? Half an hour there petrol, fuel. He left his job. Wallahi, I would see him dhuhr time in the masjid making that. See him sitting in the corner making that dua. kind of felt sorry for him. And I would go up to him and I would say, Akhi, be patient. You will struggle a little bit, but inshallah ta'ala, abshir bil khair. Within a couple of weeks or a week or two, job offers left, right, and center. And I'm asking him, every time I'm going to see him, goes, well, what happened? He goes, yeah, I've got this job offer, I'm just looking to see which one is best for me. Allah Azza wa Jal ends up giving him a job, which is what? 7-8 minutes drive from his house. Working for British Gas. You know how much he was getting? 21,000. And it increases as well over time. That is significantly more than what he was getting before, صح? 17 to 21. Works out, an extra 4,000 a year. That's only going to be increasing as well. Well, I remember he came up to me and he kissed me on the head. I was like, what happened? Because I got this job. Right? وَعْدَ اللَّهِ لَا يُخْلِفُ اللَّهُ وَعْدَ. The promise of Allah does not fail his promise. We just need that tawakkul of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and He will open them doors. With a dua, trust in Allah, having good thought of Him, all of these are what? Elements, when they come together, you will see وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whoever comes with a taqwa, Allah will give him a way out. وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ, and provides for him from where he doesn't expect. Does that make sense? We will stop there inshallah. Alhamdulillah, we covered a significant amount. Or did you know? Alhamdulillah, that which concerns most people inshallah ta'ala. Barakallahu feekum wa ahsanallahu ilaykum. Probably have 100 questions, these guys.
Now, as to regards to the questions, we just want to make it clear. We don't want Ustadh, people to crowd the Ustadh inshallah when he's going. So let's be bi'idhn rahman, let's be more respectful. Let's ask the questions now, bi'idhn rahman. The sisters, if you can write your questions down, we'll send what's his name again, the youngster there?
The 8-year-old.
The 8-year-old, inshallah,
looking to get
will
married.
come and collect the questions from your side. Inshallah, so the brothers ask you the questions now, not at the end when he's going. Please, barakallahu feekum. Ustadh, we've got a hand up already. Barakallahu feekum. Now,
straight into it, we haven't finished the whole poem. If that means you're coming back.
Does it mean that we're going to be coming back?
Yeah.
Wallahi Habibi, this is a manzuma. Because of course, you know, you have the chapters of Tahara, the chapters of Salah, which are pretty simple, sah? Because we hear it a lot all the time. As for buying and selling, it requires a lot of what? Concentration. Whenever normally one studies fiqh, they study Tahara, they study Salah, by the time they get to the end of Salah, they get bored, khalas, they leave the course. Everyone studies Tahara and Salah. And in the month of Ramadan, fasting. Right? And because these topics are normally not studied, right, it requires a lot of concentration and a lot of focus. Right? It's very hard to just go through all of it in 2-3 sittings. It's like one of those weekly sessions that is needed. Right? Allahu musta'an wa alayhi tuklan wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Inshallah ta'ala, maybe we'll do some private classes inshallah ta'ala where we cover this whole manzuma. How did you guys find it, honestly? Did you think the examples were beneficial?
Yes.
I put a lot of time into figuring out these examples.
Yes, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
Where are you from?
I'm Polish.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah, Allahumma barik. I think there's 2 Polish Muslims that I know.
Yeah,
Both of them were in Medina.
Abdul Shukur.
And then there's another one as well, big brother.
Yakub from Birmingham, brother Yakub.
That's very tall.
Yeah. Abdul Shukur, I know, he's very tall.
Yeah. No, Abdul Shukur, I know, Abdul Shukur is from Leicester.
Yeah.
But the other brother?
He's in London now.
Ah, yes, in London, yes. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. When are you new to Islam?
3 years now.
Wow.
Up to Salafi, I'm pretty new.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, Akhi, you said, so obviously Allah knows your intention. If somebody borrow you 10,000 and you know he like Yeezys, let's say, yeah, for that example, and you know it's Eid coming, like just me as a, returning the favor, not like giving him something. I'm allowed to, let's say, give him a gift out of my
Labas. Giving a gift as a gesture of goodwill without stipulating it in the contract, labas, no problem.
Yeah.
Or giving, let's just say for example, somebody gave you a sheep.
Yeah.
and you want to give a better sheet back without that being stipulated in the contract, right? Is that allowed? No, that's no problem. Prophet ﷺ done that. This is not riba. Only when it's stipulated in the contract, they agree, listen, I gave you 10,000, I want 10,000 back with the Yeezys. With an extra pair of Adidas trainers. That's riba. But if I, just as a gesture of goodwill, wanted to do a favor by giving him more, that's not a mushkil. Does that make sense? Tafadhal. Alaykum salam.
I just wanted to ask you about credit cards. Now, I have a lot of brothers that speak about credit cards and why it benefits in your advantage when it comes to purchasing and things. But the thing is, if you keep up with the credit card,
and your credit score, sahih?
Credit score goes up. But if you don't keep up, things like interest comes in place and debt as well.
Let me ask you a question. Very good. Brother asked, what do we say about credit cards and having a credit card, keeping up with payments, right? It has a positive impact on your credit score when wanting to buy something. I want to ask you a question. Yeah? Don't think it wrong, but this is just a discussion of it. If you want to come here, so it makes it easier, right? You guys can all come here as well, huh? Because my neck is about to break, I'm telling you. Yeah. Like, what is it exactly that you want? I remember having a discussion with my younger brother, may Allah Azza wa Jalla have mercy upon him. I said to him, and I just tried to, stimulate his mind. What is it exactly that your credit score is going to help you? What is it that you may want to buy in the future using a very good or very high credit score?
For example, let's say I want to buy my house that I live in, that I pay rent. And the thing is, in the UK, they have a policy, if you pay rent in a house for over 10 years.
Council house, huh?
Yeah, council house.
You get the option of right to buy.
Yeah, the right to buy, and they kind of like also make it easier for you. Now, once you're ready to buy it, if you have a good credit score, I think even mortgages some places becomes very like small or even maybe out of the question.
So, one thing I'm going to leave with you is double check this particular point that you mentioned. I'm in the exact same position. My house now, I've lived there for over 10 years. I have the option to buy it for some ridiculous amount, like 20-something thousand pounds, right? Does my credit score here play a role? Absolutely not. Not at all. The most halalist way of buying a house with the schemes that we have today, brothers and sisters, is to go down the council route option. Get a council house, stay in there for 7 years, 8 years, right? People don't actually realize every time you're paying that rent money every month, it's actually going towards the overall amount of the house being reduced. تعرفون هذا? Even though they don't say it, but this is actually the reality, right? There'll be something like a 1-bedroom flat. This is in Leicester. If you've lived in there 8-9 years, you're looking at paying £27,000, right? And that same house on Zoopla is being sold for over £100,000. Halal mortgage, huh? So many Somalis in Leicester, they bought houses. They are now becoming the new Asians in Leicester. You know the Asians, they came in the 1950s, they bought all the houses, they took over areas. Like the area that I live in is called Highfields. Wallah, you think you're in Islamabad. Huh? All Muslims. I have this brother, his white brother called Yahya, who from time to time travels with me, right? He comes to the areas waiting in front of the tower block. All the Asians are looking at him. What's the white guy doing here? Huh? Because they're all Asians, they're not used to seeing white people in the area. Arafat? Allah yahfadhu. Allah preserve him. Point to the matter is, the Asians, they came, they took over all of these houses, they bought it from the council. In St. Matthews, so many of these houses have been bought by the Somalis. 15 years they lived in some houses, they bought it for a ridiculous amount, 2-bedroom, £19,000. Does that make sense? £20,000. That's ridiculous, brothers. Right? So inshallah ta'ala, your council house, trust me, This credit score, I personally really looked into it. What do I need a credit score for? Other than taking a loan, right? Or, you know, if you have a Next account, Next directory, you guys go to Next, where they give you things on credit. All of it is interest based. The bigger or the higher credit score that you have, the more credit they give you. Some of these companies are like that. I just have a qaida, this is just a piece of advice for everyone. Right? Only buy something if you have the capability to do so. Live a life like that. You will be stress-free. I worked for the collections department many years ago for Next Directory. My job role was when these customers call in who are going through all of these difficulties, because you know sometimes what they do is they give them high credit and they buy so many clothes every month. Right? The guy has a mortgage that he needs to pay every month. He's got a car that he needs to pay the finance on, and then he loses his job. And then he calls. My job is I have to make him feel good. I have to show empathy and sympathy. Don't worry, we'll sort it out. Everything will be fine. Huh? 80 calls every day of customers like that. Broken, they're like that on the phone. Right? And that is because they did not live within their means. A lot of Muslims, brothers and sisters, they're living decent lives. They go on with their lives. They don't take things on credit. Can you see again, subhanAllah, the hikmah, the wisdom of the legislator? Well, then you have the kuffar crying to me on the phone, and I get points for being empathetic and showing sympathy. I get a higher bonus, and I don't even mean it, because it becomes right a reoccurrence. Every day, same thing. Record. It just made me appreciate my religion working in that place of life. I haven't taken a single penny, right, on credit. And even if we say now, for argument's sake, that okay, go and take the credit card. How often or how many people actually stay within the boundaries? They might be first month, they pay it on time. Second month, they pay on time before interest incurs. Third month, he forgets. Playing with fire, brothers. Does that make sense?
I have another question. This one's a bit different. So, for example, back home in Somalia, there's some neighborhoods where they have people in the neighborhood that are known to bring you, to find women for you.
Women?
Yeah. So, for example, what I'm saying is, let's say your parents want to get your older brother married off.
This lady is called a khabbab.
Yeah, khabbab, that's it. And then sometimes you even get the male version where he can also find as well.
Khabbab or khabbaba?
Yeah. Sometimes the thing is they ask for money and they say, give me like $50 or $100, and you don't know what you're getting. So part of the things that you spoke about, the conditions, is that you don't know the girl you're getting, but you're still paying him for just that service itself. And another thing is that he's not the father of the girl that you're looking for.
He just basically knows where
to find
women are, where to find.
Yeah.
So here, you're not actually buying this woman, right? You're just paying a service of him doing the running around. It's just some change that you give him. He does all of that running around. It's called حق التعب. In Amir they call it حق التعب. The work that he does of running around. Right? It's a fee that they charge. And then you go there. It's not like you pay $50 and khalas, you married off straight away, right? Only $50, huh? But you go to the house, you check her out, so on and so forth. And then you pass.
We'll only take a few more questions because we're going to have another lecture and we need to let the Ustadh relax a little bit, inshallah. So if you have a question, only ask one question, please, and make it quick. Either Rahman. Now, Isa, you put your hand up earlier on, but I don't think Ustadh saw it now. Inshallah. Isa, go on.
Assalamu alaikum.
Isa.
If a person is
You were at the Coventry University, right? I mean,
I'm in your Arabic class.
Okay, mashallah.
If a person is financially dependent on his parents, and his parents are conducting business that involves riba, and that person is working hard towards getting a job, is he sinning?
No, he's not. Question was, his parents are involved in riba, and so on and so forth, but he lives in the house, he's dependent on it. La bas, ma fi ishkal. I remember searching into this. he's not held to account for that, inshallah. But as long as, trying to become self-dependent.
طيب السلام عليكم شيخنا العزيز.
Next time.
لدي سؤالين. السؤال الأول ما حكم الشخص الذي يشتغل في الشغل الأسود؟ والسؤال الثاني إذا مثلا أنا وأخي ذهبنا إلى متجر أو إلى شخص ما فأردنا أن نشتري مثلا هاتف. الهاتف الشخصي أخي كان محتاج إليه وأنا كنت محتاج في نفس الزمن لنفس الهاتف. فأخي قال هو هيدفع مثلا 50 باون وأنا قلت لصاحب المحل أنا أدفع لك 55 باون. فصاحب المحل رفض يبيع لأخي وباع لي أنا. فالحرمة هنا إلى صاحب المحل أم أرجع إليه؟
أعيد الصورة هذه؟
مثلا
أنت وأخوك.
نعم أنا وأخي.
أوكي.
أنا وصديقي. ذهبنا أن نشتري هاتفا. فهذا الهاتف أخي اتفق معه ب50 باون. وأنا أتيت من بعده وقلت له أنا أدفع لك 55 باون. فأخذته. فهنا الحرمة يرجع إلي أنا أم؟
Okay. So the question that he asked is that his friend went to a shopkeeper and they agreed on £50 for a phone. Okay? They agreed £50. Another guy, he comes now along and goes to the shopkeeper and says, I'll give you £55 for it. The sin is upon who now? The shopkeeper or this individual? If you knew إذا كنت تعلم أنتم مشتركون في الإثم. If he knew that an agreement was already made, but then, right, he offers to give more just so he can go behind his brother's back who had an agreement of £50, he will get the sin as well. كلاكما تشتركان. أما إذا كنت لا تدري فالإثم على من؟ على البائع، على صاحب الجوال. 2 more or 3 more questions. السؤال الأول.
السؤال الأول ما حكم من يستغل
Okay, working in the black market. لا يا الله. Getting recorded as well then. والله ما أدري. لا اسألني الآن because at the end I'm going, brothers. I'm very tired. What time did we start? 1:45. How long have we gone on for? SubhanAllah, 2 hours and 5 minutes.
So one question from the brothers. If we do have some questions from the sisters, maybe we'll take 2.
I'll take these 3.
Yeah? Okay. خير.
تفضل. لا اسألني الآن.
هلا كيف الواحد ببلش بطلب العلم؟ How does he gain and when does he start working?
Okay, good. Brothers asking. SubhanAllah, there's a whole bunch coming. How does one start seeking knowledge? We have a whole manhajiyya, a whole curriculum online. It's called the Knowledge College. Knowledge College. There's a course starting in September. It is for an amount. If you're struggling, just let me know, message me. Right? Where you study for a whole year, 4 days a week, Monday to Thursday for 1 hour each day. 1 hour just. Okay? For 1 hour, and you learn the essentials of your religion. Starting with Tawheed, going through small books of Tawheed that are going to rectify your relationship with Allah. Understanding La ilaha illallah, it's very, very important, which many people are ignorant of. Ma'alasaf al-shadid, sorry to say. Going through basics of fiqh, tahara, salah, so on and so forth, hadith, seerah. There's a whole curriculum for it. It's called Knowledge College, the Muslim Survival Guide course.
Is it online or?
It's online, yeah. So every day you'll come onto Zoom, interactive with your teacher. I'm one of the teachers on there who teaches the core of the, yeah. Inshallah, I'll send you guys maybe a curriculum, inshallah ta'ala. Is it permissible to go to uni with free mixing? I'm a 16-year-old sister from Leicester to benefit from this muhadara. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Jazakallah khair, from coming all the way from Leicester. Free mixing is a problem. I have a lecture on my YouTube channel, it's called Filthy Fathers, Cheating Husband, and Free Mixing. Please refer to that, inshallah ta'ala. I'm asking this because eldest child plus I am Sudani, daughter of a single mother who wishes to make hijrah. We both want to be moved to Saudi, hopeful, inshallah ta'ala. We need masarif plus qualifications. By the way, I'm not telling anyone that they should leave university. I'm not telling anyone that they should, but there are many ways around it. Even today, can you not study university online? Or you just go in a couple of hours, especially after the corona. The corona brought a lot of good to our lives and has protected us from a lot of filth and evil. Isn't that a halal alternative? Do you have to be going into class and studying there? People are studying online now. University can be found online. Yeah. Got a question. And then I'll do your Sheikh, yeah?
Simple terms, is investments allowed, like apps in Islam?
Yeah, generally speaking, investment, remember the principle that we took was what? That it is allowed until proven otherwise. As long as there isn't any haram elements in that transaction, it is fine. Does that make sense? So investing, right? But you're going to be the one who's bringing the money, and then there is somebody who is doing the work. This is called bay' al-mudaraba. And then you guys agree on a profit. How much the profit is going to be shared. Not a percentage from the capital. Sometimes what happens is you invest and they say to you, you invested 10,000, every month I'll give you 6% of your capital. £600 guaranteed every month. That's a riba. However, the other way is, which is halal, you guys agree you have a carpenter who's got the skills and you've got someone who's got the money. They're going to open a business or a shop or a mahal, a place, right? They will make profits. Sah, there will be profits, sah? From the profits, you agree 50-50. There's nothing wrong with that. Does that make sense? Here you are not, my brothers and my sisters, agreeing on a specific amount from the capital. Again, is one of those cheats that you find. And many people, they fall victim to it. They are promised these ridiculous profits. And it's always the Muslims, subhanAllah, that fall what? Victim to it. Recently there was one as well. What was it called? Passive lane. Anyone hear about passive lane? Telecommunications? Well, you guys are shy to mention because he took a big hit. Business deal was 10,000, 20,000, and you get what? 7% of the amount. هذا عين الربا. It's just being made to look as if there's people working and whatever have you. It is as if you gave 10,000 and you ask for more back. That's exactly what it is. Bay' al-mudaraba, this type of business transaction should be like no problem. I will invest 10,000 into the product. I sit at home because I don't have the skills. There's going to be profits. There has to be what? An amount that is distributed from the profits that you agree with. Okay, I want 10% of the profits, not the capital. Or 50-50 from the profits, not the capital. This type of sharaka, this type of business deal is called what? Bay' al-mudaraba. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. You had a question, man? Yeah.
Yes, basically I've seen a video recently from someone who does like mortgages and stuff, and he was giving his perspective, so I just wanted kind of yours.
Islamic finance guru.
I forgot his name, it was on TikTok, but he was
Okay,
basically
TikTok. Someone's coming out giving financial advice on TikTok. That's a really red flag, akhi.
He was basically saying that there's these two Arabic terms for the different types, I forgot the names. There's two different ways, and that they've been going on for like thousands of years. I can't remember if he said from the time of the Prophet or shortly after, but it was.
No, I need to know what it is. Like, I need to, look at it.
Yeah, it was. I've got the video saved on my phone. I can dig it out, but yeah, I just wanted to know, like, because I haven't done the proper research into the Islamic side of things about the halal mortgage. Maybe I was scared to find out, but I just wanted.
You were scared to find out?
Ignorance is this. But now I'm asking, so.
Yeah.
What's the Islamic thing?
Do you work?
I've got a pension.
Huh? Can you save up money? Shall I keep saving up money? And Allah will open doors for you. Huh? Honestly, wallahi, I don't think it's worth. Give me one other sin in the Quran where Allah says, if you do this, then I start a war with you. This thing is not a light matter. Right? I know some scholars, they mentioned that your first house, you can take it on mortgage, but then they put down another like 10 conditions. I looked at every single one of these conditions. It does not apply here in the UK. Because in some countries around Europe, if you don't take that mortgage, you will be left without a roof. Is that possible here in the UK? Abadan. It is not possible in the UK, unless you're a junkie who takes all of that money and then spends it on. You'll be left without a roof. There's always a way. Right? A lot of the time when you look at those who take these mortgages, and it's not because he struggles to find a house, it's just because he wants to live more luxuriously. He wants to have a nice bathroom with a jacuzzi. Huh? Huh? Yeah, it's more to do than us, if we're going to be honest. Right? With patience, inshallah ta'ala, doors will open. Right? I'm sure with the money that we save, like when you think about it, how much money are you putting into that? You'll end up paying triple. But then the argument will be, at least I get to live in my house with all of the other problems that comes with it, with the lack of barakah in your life. Right? Every other day someone's messaging me, oh, I've got this problem and this and that, and it's not rocket science to realize why there's so many problems in this household, why the house has become like a war zone.